21 days were over. But you know, He put another book in my hand that's literally every day I feel like it's changing. And I've never said nothing about a book like this. But it's a book entitled, I think they've been passing it around this church, entitled Lead for God's Sakes. It's a book about a high school coach from the state of Kentucky that's the winningest high school coach in the history of that state. Three main characters in this book: the coach, a CEO, and a janitor. And I highly recommend that anybody in here, everybody, you won't be able to put this book down. But you know, I really felt like during that time, some of the prayers I prayed during that time, today, haven't been answered. Some of those people that I prayed for, people that I love and care about, I'm waiting on answers. But you know, in this book, the one thing that gripped me, and yesterday I woke up and about 5 o'clock, I read for a couple hours and came out of my study to get ready for work. And I was still crying when I met my wife in the bathroom yesterday morning. And what it, gripped my heart about was about leadership in all of our lives, especially leadership in my life. This book so much entails a coach that literally was obsessed with winning, with driving kids to win, and screamed and pled and cussed and kicked and done everything in the world. It was all about his passion for a game. And the CEO was the very same way, a neighbor of his, successful in every way, successful in every means. But yet both of these men were winners in the eyes of the world, but they were losers at home. They were driving people to lead, screaming at kids, high school kids, 17, 18-year-old boys to lead. And those men wasn't really leading in their home. The CEO lost his family. The coach was about to lose his. But God put a janitor, and I won't ruin the book for you, and especially in the coach's life. But you know, the thing that really came home to me for a long time, I really hadn't led the way I should lead in my own home. You know, church, I know it wasn't nothing. Me and my wife get along great, have been and are today. But you know what? I felt like that as a God-given leader of my own home, if I hadn't been in my study, if I hadn't been in my prayer closet, if I wasn't going to be a leader by example, then God began to deal with me. Who in the world's going to? You know, church, I think about it so much. I've got a little boy that so many times he's talked with his mom, and sometimes he's tormented with his salvation and about his salvation, not sure. Says he is. Sometimes it seems like the devil torments him. And I needed to have the leadership to quit thinking about my passions, about my pursuits. I needed to quit just thinking, I want to run. I want to pursue my goals and my dreams and my desires. If nobody else is going to pray for my kid, if nobody else is going to cry out to God for my family, if I don't, who's going to? I've got a wonderful wife, and I've got God has been so good to me. And if I don't pray for my wife, tell me who's going to. And during that time, God took me as deep as I'd ever been in my life into the well. And I found something in that well that I hadn't found in years and years of my Christian life. I found out if you really want God to help you, He will. You know, the book, and again, the janitor said, there's a purpose for everything. You know, no matter what we go through in life, no matter what comes your way, no matter what seems like the world throws at you, for years and years, even though I preached on bitterness and I taught on it, I let it eat at my own heart because I didn't understand some things. And I found some purpose this past month. I found some reasons. There's some people in my life I care and love very deeply. And if I don't pray for them, who will? You know, church, I want to be a better husband to my wife. I want to learn, instead of just always being selfish and wondering what I can get out of this relationship. You know, God's teaching me and trying to teach me to learn to listen just a little bit. You know, church, I guess Baptist preachers, especially independent Baptist preachers, very few know how to listen to anybody. And I found myself to be one of them. You know, we can all talk a mile, 20 miles a minute, 50 miles an hour. But you know, sometimes when you got a little lad that's somewhere there close in your life, and he looks up at you and said, Dad, how about a little one-on-one? You know, by the grace of God, and I've done fairly well at times, but there's been many a time it was my passion, my dreams. But you know, I know I'm not being the model example. I've not been the leader that I need to be, but by the grace of God, I want to be. You know, there's so many times, there's people in our life that we're around every day that really don't know us, that we don't talk to them, we don't play with them, we don't hear what they got to say. This past month, I know I haven't said anything to my wife. She's told me a couple of things. She said, Mike, I need you to do. I want you to do. Instead of just bucking and balking, the Holy Spirit's tapping me on the shoulder and said, hey, she needs you. Won't you listen? Won't you lead? It's not your wife's duty to lead this family. It's not your wife's job to pray for your kids, even though she should. You know who should be leading? It's us men. It's the men of the home. It's the men in the family. And I promise you, in this last month, I know I don't want this to sound arrogant, but for the first time in years, I felt so close to God. I felt like there's times that I'm just riding down the road and just break down weeping. I wake up at night and I'm just tears coming down my face. And God said, if you're thirsty, I'll give water. I'll give water to him that's thirsty. You know, sometimes God, I know He asked me, He may not ask you to do that, but sometimes God may want you to go to the well. I want to be a better daddy. I want to have my kid's heart. I don't want the world to have my son and have his life and him to be struggling and me not have enough God about myself to crawl in my study and crawl under that desk and just keep on praying until God does something in his life. I want to be a better Christian. I want to be a better example. And church, I'm not saying do what I did, because that's not what this is about. You know, I wrote down the word help, and I'm done. I asked God when I sit down on Monday morning, about 5 in the morning I woke up. I asked God during that time, I said, Lord, with the word help, I said, God, would you make me humble? God, would you touch me? Make me sensitive to you again. I wrote down the letter E. I said, God, and I began to pray, Lord, would you send encouragement in my life? Would you make me excited again? Would you give me energy that I need? I wrote the letter L. I said, God, just like this janitor did in this book, folks, it's unbelievable. And this, of course, this was after God had already dealt with me. But the janitor, again and again, they thought he was sleeping when he'd come in. He said, no, I'm just trying to listen to God. I said, Lord, let me hear. Let me listen to you. And last of all, I wrote the letter P down. I said, God, I want more power. Lord, help me to be more of a prayer warrior. Help me to love people. Help me to care about the people that work for me, the people in my life, the people that know me. God, I don't want to be phony. I really want to be a real Christian. You know, church, many times the preacher has asked us to pray and asked us to fast. And I promise you, it's one of the hardest things I've ever did in my life. It's been one of the most rewarding things. And again, I'm not telling you that so anybody will feel like I'm anybody, because I've failed God so bad. But church, I promise you, if you got something in your life, somebody in your life that really needs Him and you need Him, you know what? There's a well where there's water. There's a place where you can find shelter from the storm. Now I want you to bow your heads just for a moment. I know this is different, totally different from the way I preach over to prison. And I want you to listen to a song that I listened to literally hundreds of times over them 21 days. And while your heads are bowed, I'm going to ask Marvin, if he will, to play this song. If God speaks to your heart, all I ask you to do is just obey Him.
When life gets me down, this world can be a lonely place to be. I wonder, oh God, why? Then I try to analyze all the possibilities. But there's no reason or rhyme. It's out of my hands this time, and I just fall on my knees. He hears my plea. He knows when my strength is nearly gone, and I feel so all alone. I just fall. I fall on my knees. When doubts cloud my mind, I'm haunted by those old memories. I wanna run away because I am afraid to face reality. But there is a secret place where I'm overtaken by the race, and I just fall on my knees. God hears my plea. He knows my need when my strength is nearly gone, and I feel so all alone. I just fall. I fall